Seth, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. And intro.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Seth Joyner podcast. Well, I wish I could say it's a good evening. Man, what a disaster last night watching your Philadelphia Eagles, or our Philadelphia Eagles, go down in a flame. Listen, it's Talk to Him Tuesday. And the reason why I decided to do a Talk to Him Tuesday, I felt like you guys got a ton of questions, things that you want to know, observations that you might have about how this game turned out last night with the Atlanta Falcons snatching victory from the jaws of death, literally in the waning moments of this game. And there's so much to get to. And, you know, I was on WIP this morning, and we didn't take a whole bunch of calls, but the board was lit up. People just wanted to talk about, you know, this anemic team, how it was built, Nick Sirianni's decisions down the stretch of the game, just a plethora of just different things that contributed to why this team actually lost this football game. So I want to give the floor to you guys as much as possible. We'll jump into your questions here in a little bit. You know, make sure that you follow me here, like, share, and also go to the page and subscribe, as well as turn on your notifications, so when we upload the show each week, it shows up in your notifications, you know, what time we're on and that we're actually doing the show, so on and so forth. What else? Man, I'm a little brain dead, to be honest with you. Last night was a long night to watch that, and then having to get up and do WIP this morning. My whole clock is off. You know, I guarantee you, if they would have won that game, if they would have just found a way, to win that game, then on some level, I would have been, a little more energized tonight. So you guys bear with me a little bit. The other thing is, we're going to do the whiteboard session tonight, but I need you guys to give me some questions about what it is that you want to see, what you want me to go over on the whiteboard during the whiteboard session. I think I believe last year on the whiteboard, I think I did some things as far as how the DBs should line up, and the different options that they have in man coverage and zone techniques and how they play their techniques. I can talk about that, but if you guys have got something that you really want to see or really want to learn about, drop it over here in the comments, and my producer will bring it to my attention. And that way we can, get some learning as far as, what we're seeing on the field. The whole point of that is to help you guys enjoy the game of football that much more. Okay. Where do you want to start? Let's start with Nick Sirianni's two biggest mistakes. And I guess you guys saw the presser today, and they basically were talking about, Nick was asked, or maybe it was last night, asked about, who was actually making the call, and he got a little chippy about it. He was like, Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator. He's making the calls. Well, he's basically telling you, I have no control over the offense. This guy's calling what he wants to call. That's the deal that he has with Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, is that if I take this job, I'm in full control of what we do from an offensive perspective. And Nick Sirianni does not get to tell me how to call my plays and what I should call. The only authority that Nick really has is to tell him, go for it or don't go for it, kick the field goal or punt the ball. Other than that, Kellen Moore is basically running this offense carte blanche. That is pretty evident, and Nick let that be known, front and center last night. My greatest issue started in the second series, I should say. The Eagles drive all the way down the field, and instead of on 4th and 4, 4th and 3, I think it was, instead of taking the points, they decide to, go for it and got greedy. And I really don't like to, talk about in hindsight what happened, but I think that there are times in games, because of this analytical world that we now live in as far as football is concerned, that you have to consider, you have to talk about it. Because my greatest concern about analytics is that it possesses zero accountability for the decisions that coaches are making. The numbers are telling them that this is what you should do. The networks are now, posting at the bottom of the screen in game what the numbers say that you should do, what the probabilities are if you actually go for it on 4th down. And that kind of plays right into the hands of the lack of accountability. Because if I'm a head coach and I make a decision based upon what my analytics guy is in my ear and telling me that we should go for it here, and it doesn't work out, as an organization, how do you hold your head coach responsible for those decisions when it's really not being made by the head coach? The analytics department is actually making those decisions, and they're not accountable for anything because, according to them, well, this is what the numbers say that we should do, okay? And when it doesn't work out, which is bound to do, because probabilities certainly are in certain cases and instances, it's a 50-50 proposition. There's a 50% chance that it'll work out. It's a 50% chance that it won't. And then the law averages always kicks in. I don't care how many times you try to go for it. I guarantee you there's very rarely a coach in the National Football League who is aggressive in his mindset that chooses to go for it more times than not that's well over 50% success rate, because it's just impossible. Things happen. Sometimes you're going to get it, sometimes you won't. The greatest benefit as far as that's concerned, as far as, last year with the tush push, is the Eagles are almost 89% success rate on that. But I don't think that's an analytical thing. That's a physicality thing. Jason Kelsey and those boys is just great enough to convert at such a high rate, and other teams have no remedy for it. And the Eagles this year are locking into that somewhat again, even though they had some struggles, in week 1. They missed one, I believe. But the accountability aspect of the decision-making for these coaches is just not there. So when it comes time to determine whether I, as a coach, should maintain my job based upon the coaching job that I'm doing, and the analytics department, the analytics guy is telling me that this is how I should, run my offense, then at the end of the day, how do you hold me accountable for that when I'm not making the decisions? If I am a head coach, probably why I'm not a head coach, probably why I'm not, I've chosen not to go down that road of coaching, because I'm just not going to buy into that all the time. I think that coaches should always be in a position where they can use their gut to determine whether they go for a play or whether they don't. And there's always a situation a coach knows his team, and he knows and understands how he feels about the situation. Some situations just feels right. In your gut, it's right to go for it. Yet there's other situations where in your gut, you're like second guessing yourself. And if there's ever a point in time in one of these crucial situations as a head coach that you decide or you guess yourself, you second guess yourself, then you should always go with your first inclination. The part that we don't get to see is the fact that on Tuesday morning, the head coach has got to sit in a meeting with the analytics department. They got to sit in a meeting with the head coach. They got to sit in a meeting with the owner. and the GM and explain to them why you made the decisions that you made when the analytics department told you to go right and you decided to go left. And then they hold you accountable for it. Well, excuse me, I thought I was the head coach in charge of making the right decisions for my football team, right, wrong, and indifferent. If I'm going to be fired or I'm going to be maintained as a coach, the reason why that is because I'm making the proper decisions and I'm rolling the dice in the right way or choosing not to at the right time, rather than being told what to do and how to do it. So that kind of world is not for me. I wasn't born in that world. I don't adhere to that world. And I just feel like, if I'm the head coach and I got to stand and face the music after every game, then I should be able to stand and face the music according to how I decide to run my football team. Okay. Long way to get back here. Nick Sirianni on the second possession, the Eagles had traveled 10 plays, 55 yards. They go for it on 4th and 4, don't make it. They get no points out of it. Okay. And people always say, hey, you know what? You don't lose the game in the first quarter, second or third quarter. But trust me, you can certainly lose the game in those quarters, because those 3 points were the difference between the Eagles winning that game last night, and you take Saquon and the decision making out of whether you should have ran the ball or whether you should have passed the ball or keep the clock running, all of those things. But you take the points. There's a difference between the game being on the line or you feeling like the opponents are scoring at such a clip that you have to go for it on 4th down in the proper situation just to keep pace, because you know that your defense does not have the ability to keep up. So you have to score almost every single possession to be in a position in the end with an opportunity to win the game. But the second series of the game, you have an opportunity at points. You have to take the points. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I don't give a damn what any analytics people or person tells you. The second series of the game, you always take the points. You need points in a game like that, okay? And you can think that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, but the truth of the matter is, as talented as this football team is, it was never more apparent to me than last night just how important A.J. Brown is to this offense. It is not the same offense without him on the field. I don't know whether it's how the defense plays everybody, what Jalen's mindset is, but I now understand why they re-upped him and paid him damn near $30 million a season this offseason, because he is the gas that makes this engine go. Now, Jalen drives it, but without him on the field, they're a different football team. A.J. Brown is a bad boy. I mean, Devontae Smith is a bad boy. Don't get me wrong. But A.J. Brown is clearly wide receiver number 1. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I'm sorry. And we thought that this would be, a quick thing where AJ was down. He'd come back next week. We find out, before the game from Lisa Salters from ESPN that all of a sudden this is going to be, a couple of week thing. How are the Eagles going to handle? How are they going to deal with the New Orleans Saints? How are they going to deal with going down, to Tampa Bay again with Baker Mayfield playing the way that he's playing? How are they going to deal with that? Honestly, I believe that it's a good chance that the Eagles after 4 games are 1-4. Very good chance. Okay? Those analytical statistics are my greatest belief, that the probability of them being 1-3 after 4 games is the most probable outcome that we're going to see with A.J. Brown on the shelf for at least another 2 weeks. Okay? Next decision. The end of the game. The Eagles had the last drive was 11 plays before the half was 11 plays, 70 yards, a touchdown to Devontae Smith for a 7-yard touchdown. They come out after the half. They go 11 plays, 59 yards. Jake Elliott's forced to kick, a 29-yard field goal. That may be a little longer. I think I may have that one and the last one mixed up. Then they go 17 plays, 70 yards, touchdown, tush push to Hurts. And now you got an opportunity to seal the game away. You're up by 3. Of course, you want the touchdown, but Atlanta's out of timeouts. Okay. So if you run the ball on 3rd down, and let's say Saquon gets 2 yards, 3 yards on 4th and 4, now you're in that area where now you can call a timeout. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, Kellen Moore. Our conversion rate is extremely high in the tush push. So if I've got a yard to a half a yard, yeah, we may be able to go for it on 4th down. We get the 1st down. All we got to do is take a knee. Game, set, match. Okay. And I'm not trying to let Saquon Barkley off the hook. That's a play that he makes. That's a catch that he makes 9.5 out of 10 times. 9.5 out of 10 times. Listen, he just took his eye off the football. And anybody who's caught a football, anybody who's played football at a high level, they know that in order to be an effective catcher of the ball, there's this thing called hand-eye coordination. Wherever my eyes go, my hand goes. Wherever my eyes go, my hand goes. So if the ball is here and I'm looking at the football, then my hands are in the perfect position to make the catch. And I'm going to make sure that I catch the ball, that I squeeze it and catch it, that I put it away before my eyes ever comes off the ball. Okay? Saquon just took his eye off the ball for a split second. Made all the difference in the world in this game. And I'm not going to just put it all on him and say it's his fault that the Eagles lost this football game. That was a big play. But I think the 3 in the second possession was just as big. And no one's, really talking about that. So the question is, do you throw the ball or should you have run the football in that situation? Listen, it was a great call. And when you take risks like that, it's always, a 50-50 proposition. It's a great call because the Falcons had everybody bunched up inside to stop Saquon. Instead, they run him to the flat. He's wide open. You throw the ball out there, which looks like it's at least going to be a 1st down at the minimum if he doesn't turn it up and run a couple of DBs over and get in the end zone. Now you got a 10-point lead with 1 minute and 39 seconds. It's certainly game, set, and match then. But then there's this other thought that you run the ball, you keep the clock going. If you get to 4th and 1, go tush push. If you don't make at least 2.5 yards, then you kick the field goal. You're up by 6. You basically salted, another 40 to 45 seconds off the clock. They will get the ball with, roughly 50, 55 seconds left in the game. And they've got to go 70 yards, 75 yards for a touchdown just to win the football game. Now, let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball because we know how it all worked out, and we can talk about what they should have done and what they could have done, all of those things. You guys like my transparent cup, don't you? But we got to talk about Vic Fangio and his defense last night. I was very impressed by what I saw with Vic Fangio's defense in week 1. It wasn't even close to what they played last night. The corners didn't play aggressive. Again, there wasn't any pass rush. Again, they could not stop the run. They gave up 163 yards, 163 yards last week. They turned around and they gave up, I believe, 152 yards in rushing this week. And understand, the run game and the pass game works together. Totally works together. The reason why you guys hear me harp on the run game so much, because when you have a run game, it makes it easier on your quarterback. And it's so much more difficult for the defense, because as a defender, I've always got to honor the fact that when you stick that ball out, that you're running it effectively. And as a defender, what I'm trying to do, the defense is always trying to control the run first and make a team one-dimensional. Those tenets in football never, ever change. It's always the same. It's been that way. It was that way when I played. It was that way before I played. It'll be that way when I'm gone and when they're still playing. The run game is the linchpin. And I think you're beginning to see a resurgence of the run game in the National Football League, because there's only one Patrick Mahomes in the National Football League. And you also see with him, when the Chiefs struggled, when they struggled a little bit in week 1, what did they do in the second half? What did they do last week with Cincinnati? They came out and they ran the football in the second half. They did the same exact thing in the Super Bowl. They struggled through the first half. They came out and they ran the football. And once they got the run game established, guess what? Everything that Patrick Mahomes wanted was right there for the taking. Okay? Why these coaches don't understand that, why they don't do that, I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's the easiest way for your quarterback to be in the best position to succeed. Kirk Cousins was a statue last week. The Pittsburgh Steelers harassed him and beat him like he stole something all game long. Yeah, they only got 2 sacks, but guess what? They beat him to a pulp all day. We sat back and sent our 4-man rush, and we got nowhere close to the quarterback all day. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I got to go back, to this run game. And then I'll get over on the pass rush and what those inefficiencies are as well. This Eagles defense is flawed, because I don't know what they're being coached and what they're being taught, but it's almost like the linebackers got Velcro on the front of their jersey. The defensive line got Velcro on the front of their jerseys. And at times, the defensive backs need some Velcro, so maybe when they go to tackle somebody, they'll stick to them and they can make the damn tackle. Okay? When you're trying to stop the run, you've got to get your arms out and get extension off of people and extend your arms so you can get off of blocks. Jalen Carter is going to be double teamed because he is the best defensive tackle that they have. So they're always going to be scheming in the run game to try to double team him. Sometimes, it's Jordan Davis, because if he's in a one-eye or a two-eye situation, well, he's right there next to the center. The center snaps the ball, he can block back, him and the guard can double, and one of them can work up on the next level linebacker. But they've got to learn how to start using their hands and get off blocks. They're not getting off the blocks in the run game, and that is what's killing them week in and week out. The linebackers sometimes don't understand, to me, where they supposedly fit. I don't really see them reading the offensive line in a way where they understand where the flow is going so they can beat blocks. They get cut. It's almost, you see this lineman running out at you. Your eyes have got to be on him, because you got to understand how I'm going to deal with this guy. And you just keep running, and he cuts your legs off from under you, and the running back just goes running by you. Can somebody tell me what in the world are they practicing? We used to practice cut drills every single day. It's the easiest block to defend. One hand on the helmet, one hand on the shoulder, and the offensive lineman can't come close to touching you, okay? And you should be able to see it, because when an offensive lineman is coming to block you up top, he's not trying to get his pads low. It's a dead giveaway. It's 300 plus pounds. The number one thing he's got to do is begin to lower his body mass so that he can cut your legs out from under you. They are technically and fundamentally broken. And I'm wondering, what kind of coaching are they being given that they can't overcome the most simplest things that I used to teach my 9, 10, and 11-year-olds when I was coaching football. I don't understand it. Okay? Let's talk about the passing game. Let's talk about the cornerbacks first. Okay? When you're in a blitz situation, you cannot, every single time as a cornerback or a slot corner, you cannot play off coverage all the time. I tell you guys all the time, and I'll illustrate it later on when I get to some of this cornerback work. When you have a cornerback head up on a wide receiver and you don't define which way you want him to go, here's the cornerback, here's the receiver. If I line up inside of him, I'm almost guaranteeing that he has to outside release because of how I'm positioning my body. When I line up outside of him, you're almost guaranteeing that he has to release inside. So the cornerback has every ability to direct where he wants that wide receiver to go just by alignment. But when you play 5 yards off the ball, and now you guys are in direct alignment, okay? I've got a two-way go. If I give you a stutter here and you move, boom, I'm gone. If I give you a stutter here and you move here, boom, I'm gone. Without you ever putting your hands on me, without you ever rerouting me, I'm giving you the upper hand on every single situation. What are they coaching these cornerbacks to do? Because when you're in man coverage, or if you're in blitz coverage, which is man coverage, you know you don't have any help. You have to make that wide receiver take a defined release, which gives you a chance to cover him. Without a defined release, you have no shot whatsoever at covering that guy who runs a 4-3, 4-2, 4-3, 4-4, 40. You just don't. You don't. And the Eagles consistently get beat this way. Even the times when they get up in press coverage, they don't put their hands on the wide receiver. What's the use of getting up if you're just going to open the gate and let him run by you? The whole point in getting up in press coverage is that you take your one jam that's allotted to you in a five-yard area, and you make the wide receiver release where you want him to go, not where he wants to go, and make the quarterback make the perfect throw off of that. Because you know when you make him release, there's only a handful of routes that he can run. Because you're either taking away the inside. I don't like outside technique because all the receiver has to do is stem you out and run. Now he's running across the field away from you, and the safety's 20 yards deep. But these teams run this type of technique because they're so afraid of the corner route. They're so afraid of giving up the corner route, the corner fade. The one route that scares the hell out of them. They're protecting that one route against single high safety. All right? Let's talk about the defensive line before we take a break. Howie's made a massive mistake on two levels. You cannot draft a big defensive tackle at 13th overall, and all he can do is sometimes play the run. That's Jordan Davis. Might be one of the most egregious draft pick mistakes that we've made in the last 15 years. Knowing that Fletcher Cox was on his was at the end of his rope, that he was about to retire, you needed to go get a bona fide playmaker. Now you followed up next year and you go and you get Jalen Carter, and I believe they have that guy that's going to be the next great defensive tackle in Philadelphia Eagle history. But have to ask, what the hell are they coaching him? What are they coaching him? Because every great defensive tackle I've ever seen, from Jerome Brown to John Randall to Howie Long to the modern day Aaron Donald, they don't bull rush on every single play. They're trying to get on the edge and get around the guy so that they can get up the field right now. Jalen Carter does a lot of bull rush, and then he tries to get off. Well, guess what? While you're trying to push 300 pounds backwards, okay, 1001, 1002, 1000, 1003, that ball's probably gone. None of our defensive tackles, save Milton Williams, has any moves to get free right now and get up the field. So the Eagles, in my opinion, probably need to start implementing some tackle games where guys aren't just defined where they're going all the time, but you can get the offensive lineman moving in a certain way so that you can get on the edge or get on the inside shoulder to get to the quarterback. Next mistake. Hassan Reddick has been your best defensive player for the last 2 years. And because he had a contract demand, which he was justified in asking for, if you can pay all of these offensive players, if you can give your quarterback $50 million and you can give your wide receiver $30 million and give your other wide receiver damn near $20 million, you mean to tell me that you can't find market value or close to market value for your best defensive player, your fastest defensive player over the last 2 years? So you want to get younger and you want to go get somebody else's 11-sack guy who, oh, by the way, they don't want him anymore. That's the first telltale sign. I got into it with people over the Jahan Dotson thing. I said, good teams don't trade good players. The only reason that they make trades like that is that they're not in their plans as far as salary cap is concerned, or their heir apparent is already on the roster. The heir apparent was not on the roster. And if they thought Nolan Smith was, they were fooling themselves. But you go and you get younger with Bryce Huff, a guy who played 40% of the plays last year. Why did he only play 40% of the plays, but he got 11 sacks? If that's the case, if he's got 11 sacks, well, guess what? I'm trying to up his numbers to 65% to try to extrapolate another 5 or 6 sacks out of him if he's that good. He's not that good. The Jets knew he wasn't that good. And Howie does a lot of duping. He dupes a lot of organization out of draft stock, out of players, out of a lot of things. Howie Roseman got duped by the New York Jets when it comes to Bryce Huff, because that kid can't play in the National Football League. He's a one-year wonder. He's got one pass rush move, speed rush, and every single offensive tackle in the National Football League knows it. He can't set the edge against the run. He's too small. So teams are going to begin to run at him when you have him on the field for an extended period of time. It's just going to make the situation that much worse. But guess what? We're stuck with what we have. It is what it is. The Eagles aren't, listen, Fletcher Cox is not going to walk through that door, like Jordan Davis said, and save them. It's time for them to grow up and be the guys. You drafted his first-round draft picks. Step up. Hassan Reddick potentially, and most probably, ain't walking through the NovaCare complex to help shore up the defensive end in the edge rusher position. It is what it is. This is what we're stuck with this year. And dare I say, it potentially is going to be a long season, because the Eagles are not only fundamentally flawed, but I think Howie overestimated some of the guys that he brought in, their talent level, and they're just not that good. Nolan Smith is not that good. Bryce Huff is not that good. And they're one and the same. They're one and the same. All right, let's take a quick break. When I come back, we'll jump into a little bit of whiteboard stuff right quick, and then I'll get your questions. I may go over a little bit this tonight because, you know, I'm over the 30-minute mark, and I've just been on my little rant. I had to do it, but I'll give you guys a couple of extra minutes, you know, for questions. All right. See you guys in a sec.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the anticipation of another face card, the thrill of an extra spin, and the pure joy of a jackpot. It's all your favorite games at your fingertips. Plus, get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. Bet Parks.
At Pawnlee Hockey, we're neither a pawn nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut. We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Pawnlee Hockey recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Pawnlee Hockey a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
Welcome back, guys. So we're going to jump into our whiteboard right quick. And then we'll get to the questions. I've got my producer. He's going to kind of breeze through here and kind of see if you guys have any requests. But as of right now, I'm going to get to some of this wide receiver stuff. If I can get this working. Oh, my board ain't working now. There we go. Okay, there we go. So let's do this. Okay. So here's your wide receiver. Okay. Here's your cornerback in inside press technique. Okay. So when I say inside, he's got an inside shoulder press on him. So now what I want to do is I want to take this outside hand and I want to jam him here and I want to force the wide receiver, okay, to release outside. Now, this is what we call being in phase. If I'm in phase with him, that means I'm on his inside, okay? And as I'm on his inside, that I'm going to take this left hand and I'm just going to put that left hand on his body like this, which now allows me to feel him right here, but also I can get my eyes back at the quarterback, right? So I know a lot of you guys saw the one-handed interception by the DB for Cincinnati against Kansas City. And the reason why he was able to make that interception is because of this right here, okay? He jammed the receiver, made him release outside, felt him with his left hand, and now he could get his eyes back. Most of the time you see guys there in man-to-man coverage, they never look back. And one of the reasons why they don't look back and one of the reasons why you get so many PI penalties is because guys know that they're out of phase and they know that they're out of position. And you always got to do something extra to kind of compensate for that feeling of being out of position. Like if I'm covering the tight end and I know I got him covered, I have no qualms whatsoever about looking back at the quarterback because I want to make a play on the football. But when you're out of position, and this applies to just about all penalties. All penalties are a result of players being out of position and realizing that they're beat. That's just a fact. You don't have to hold a guy who you're in correct position on, because when you're in correct position, now you got him where you need to have him. But the minute he gets outside your body and you know that ball's got to get outside around you, the first thing you're going to do is a natural instinct to grab and hold. It's a natural instinct. So the majority of all penalties is no different than an offensive lineman that's supposed to block a guy's inside shoulder, and he overreaches and get on the outside shoulder, and the guy shoots the gap. Well, he doesn't have any other choice but with this inside hand to grab and hold him because he knows he's beat. So if your technique and your fundamentals are halfway decent, the probabilities of you getting a penalty go down exponentially. How's that for analytics? Okay. So this is press coverage. All right. So let's back out all of this. And let me show you outside press coverage, which I absolutely hate. Okay. Because if that wide receiver stutters you out and takes off across the field, now you're in chase mode. And here's the quarterback. Look at the window that's open, 100%. I want to be in the window so I can shut it down. But when you play outside technique, you're inviting this all day long. That's an easy pitch and catch between that wide receiver and that quarterback all day long. And you see it all day long in the National Football League. All day. Because you want to know this is the route that scares defensive coordinators to death more than anything. Okay? That fade route and that corner route. Because it's almost impossible for that safety to get over the top, especially if you got a good quarterback right here that looks that safety off there and then comes back with that ball over here. Safety can never get there. It's almost impossible. So one of the things I really love to see the Eagles be able to do is mix up, okay, inside press, outside press, which you can't live with too much of that. In certain situations, depending on, you know, your zone coverage, it's a change-up call, okay? You line up head up, you're in zone. Quarterback gives his cadence, now you bail, okay? From press. Because believe me, this quarterback is looking at your technique. He wants to know whether you're inside, whether you're outside, whether you're up, whether you're back. That's going to determine a lot of what he does with the football, okay? So there's your bail technique. Like to see that every once in a while, okay? Would also like to see the cornerback off, and on the snap of the ball, you roll up on him and take your jam, whether you're outside or whether you roll up inside. You have the ability to direct him one way or the other. Okay, just with your positioning, even if you can't get your hands on them, you have the ability to do that. Okay, the Eagles like to play off the ball 5 yards, and this is what I was talking about earlier. When I'm head up on this guy like that, and he releases right at me, he's got a two-way go, depending on which way he stems me. And it's almost impossible to cover people under these pretenses, okay? Even your linebackers covering running backs out of the backfield, for instance. Here's the running back, here's the linebacker. You step vertical, the running back's coming out. He's got a two-way go on you, okay? If I'm covering a running back out of the backfield, he comes out, I'm eating up the space, I'm jamming the inside shoulder, and I'm making him release so I can get in phase. Okay, it ain't that hard. It trust me, it's hard to master these techniques, but when you're a professional football player at the highest level, some coach somewhere should be teaching you these things. Okay, but if the Eagles are going to continue to play their cornerbacks off the ball that far, they're going to continue to have issues because that wide receiver and the cornerback is backpedaling on the snap, because he's trying to maintain his cushion. That receiver can run slant, he can hook it, he can run it out, he can shut it down, run a comeback rate. Look at all those routes that you can run when you play that soft. That's just not good football, man. It's not good football. And when you show on film that this is the way that you primarily live, then guess what? You're going to have a hard time playing cornerback in the National Football League. You got to mix it up. You got to get up. You got to get back. You got to get inside. You got to get outside. You got to do some different things because these quarterbacks are too smart. They're too smart. A lot of times a quarterback will have a running play called right here, okay? Let's do this because this is what a lot of teams do. They go 3 by 1. Running backs over here, got 3 receivers here, wide receiver here, okay? When that quarterback looks out here and he sees that cornerback in off position with outside technique, he's not even going to hand that ball off. While everybody else is doing what they're doing, that wide receiver is going to run a slant right there, and that cornerback's going to be in chase mode. And because that running back is stepping right here, guess what? Your linebackers are stepping up into the line. Look at this huge void that's right there. All because this is what you're given. Instead of being in this position, now you force that quarterback. Okay, if you want to throw the ball to him, it has to be a fade route, and it's got to be the perfect throw. Now I'm in phase with him. I got a chance to play the ball. All right. So let's open it up to the questions. I know I've eaten up the majority of the show. I'm going to go probably an extra 15 minutes for you guys just to answer some of your questions. So my producer PJ is just going to start firing, and I'm going to answer them the best I can. Christine wants to know any good players. I'm presuming she's saying the Eagles were either already developed from college or they were pros from other NFL teams. I talked about this in the post game last night. It's imperative. I think for me, the biggest plus for me is the coaches that I had early in my career. Also, our off-season program, which the players don't have access to any longer. My rookie year, from February 28th to the coaches went on vacation in June, I was right here in Philadelphia working on all the things that I needed to get better at, okay? Lifting weights, watching film, on field, Monday through Friday, just developing as a player. And to me, it was the most critical time in my career. Now, these players don't have that luxury because the CBA says, guess what? You can only have access to these players as coaches during OTAs. So even if I wanted to get with my linebacker coach as a player in today's game, it's against the CBA rules and they can't do it. The team would get fined for it, okay? As far as, and I was, like I said, I was talking about it last night. I think that the Eagles historically don't do a good job of developing their own talent at certain positions. Think about it. This is the first time in a long time that they probably since Andy Reid was the head coach. This is the first time that the Eagles have actually drafted 2 cornerbacks that with the intention to develop them both. But when I look at these guys, both of these guys seem to be very well developed. Okay. So sometimes, you need a great coach for some players. Other players already come made, if you will. Like you look at Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith was a Heisman Trophy winner, played at Alabama where Nick Saban has been legendary for bringing in great position coaches that can teach and give players a toolbox and all the tools that they need to go out and be dominant on the field. Devontae Smith, when the Eagles drafted him, didn't need a wide receiver coach. He already knew how to run good routes. He already understood zone and man coverages and concepts. He didn't need that. Didn't need it. He already came prepared. But think about all the wide receivers that over the years we missed on in the draft that could have potentially been halfway decent wide receivers, but we never had the coaches here that understood how to develop the talent of football players that are transitioning from the college to the pro level. It's so important, okay? I had Buddy Ryan as a coach. Wade Phillips was my linebacker coach my first 2 years. Jeff Fisher, Bud Carson. I mean, the list just goes on and on of all these great defensive minds that I got a chance to learn under. and gain experience from that taught me how to play the game, where my eyes should be, what I should be looking at, what my keys are in every alignment. If I'm off the ball, I'm keying through the uncovered lineman to the quarterback to the running back. If I'm head up on the tight end, I'm keying the movement of the tight end's head. If I'm on the open side, I'm keying through the outside foot of the offensive guard, the offensive tackle, okay, into the backfield. Today, I'm not sure where the linebackers' eyes are looking and what they're looking for and what they're looking at and what their keys truly are, because they don't react in a way that gives you any kind of indication that they're looking in the right places. Okay? All right, next question. Jeanette wants to know what's the perspective of linebacker looking at RPO versus traditional pro style. How does it impact your reads? Which is better in your opinion? Great question, Jeanette. The RPO to me is one of the most unfair plays in all of football, because what a linebacker should be keying, like I just explained, he should be keying the offensive lineman. Okay, but the NFL has given offenses a 1 to 1.5 yard grace period for them to be over the line of scrimmage. Okay, so now if I'm keying properly, the offensive linemen tell me everything I want to know. If it's run, they've got to fire out and take real estate. They got to double team and get up to the second level to get the linebacker, correct? If it's pass, they're all dropping back in pass pro. So that tells me right now to either drop or go get my man because they're throwing the football. So all the information is right there for you through what you read in the offensive lineman. Now, granted, teams have become very creative over the last few years, especially through some of this RPO stuff. I see teams pull the backside guard and tackle and then hand the ball off to the running back going exactly where the backside guard and tackle left from. Why? Because that defensive end is undisciplined, and now we're able to game plan his undisciplined nature. So now you can run the ball this way with no blocking that way, and those are key breakers. And the only guy that's there to get you is the linebacker. And if he's keying the offensive lineman pulling, he should be over here. Now, you can prepare for that in your preparation during the week, and you put it in your notes. That's the key breaker. Okay? If I'm the backside linebacker and they double pull the backside guard and tackle, I got to be a little slower to get across, because they've got this key breaker where they'll hand the ball off to the running back coming back against the grain, against where the pullers are coming from. Okay? So now, if the lineman can be down the field a yard to a yard and a half, that means they're across the line of scrimmage. That's a legal man downfield. They shouldn't even have that 1 to 1 yard grace. Because for me as a linebacker, it puts me at a deficit, because the minute I see them taking real estate, I'm coming to attack the line of scrimmage. And then the quarterback pulls the run portion of the RPO out of the running back's belly and throws a slant right behind the back of my head. That's not fair. And the rules shouldn't be slanted that way. And the Eagles don't do a good job with it either. I think they had like 3 or 4 illegal men downfield in last night's game alone. And you tell me, how is it that you're really supposed to do it? They're always going to be downfield, because if you don't know whether the quarterback is going to run, pass it, or keep it, as an offensive lineman, you're taking real estate right now. So it's always going to be problematic, because if they do stay 1 yard, that means they're stepping across the line. Now they're stopping. If the quarterback decides to hand it off, they're not making a block, because they got to stop within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. Now you can see the insanity of all of this. But the NFL is so hell-bent on offensive production and the sexiness of scoring points and the unsexiness of great defense that they allow this nonsense to go on. Makes no sense to me. Makes no sense whatsoever. So no matter, Jeanette, what they do in retrospect, if the linebackers aren't keying through the linemen into the backfield to the quarterback and the running back. And by the way, running back and the quarterback are the greatest liars on the offensive side of the ball. That's why we've been taught as linebackers to key through the offensive lineman, because the one thing they can't do 9 times out of 10, they can't lie. If it's run, they got to fire out. If it's pass, they got to pass set. Plain and simple. Next question. Raymond wants to know who's the best player on defense. Right now, to me, listen, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And I know he missed a tackle that gave up a 41-yard touchdown last night. That's going to happen sometimes when you're in blitz coverage. But I also think that we need to stop trying to disguise, because Kirk Cousins knew what was coming right away. You could tell how quickly he got the ball out of his hands, okay? If it's blitz and you're in blitz coverage and the linebackers and everybody else is giving it away, you need to give up your disguise and get down right now so you can get on your guy right now. He was late because he was trying to disguise, and then he got out of position. And once the guy caught the ball because he was out of position, it's a 41-yard touchdown. But you tell me, when was the last time you seen a guy come up and lay the wood on a running back the way that he did on that 4th and 1? He's the most aggressive player that they have. I believe that he's the only player on that side of the ball who has the propensity and the ability to be a playmaker. That's the other thing that the Eagles lack. The Eagles don't have enough playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. They don't. Who's making plays? Talk to me about the Eagles and how few turnovers they've had over the last 5 years playing this style of defense. The reason why you turn the football over is because you have an aggressive mindset and an aggressive stance. You're forcing the issue. I'm going to come up and lay the wood on you and make you put the ball on the ground. I'm going to pressure your quarterback into making bad throws so that we can turn the football over. But when your nature is passive, it's reflective in how few turnovers you produce on a year-to-year basis. And I guarantee you, if someone did a study and went back and studied how many turnovers the Eagles have created in the last 5 years, the Eagles would rank in the bottom half of the National Football League because of their passive mindset. Quarterbacks aren't just going to throw you interceptions. Running backs and wide receivers are not just going to put the ball on the ground. Turnovers being forced are called forced for a reason, because you aggressively make your opponent give the ball up in whatever manner or fashion you need to. And the Eagles don't play that brand of football. They don't. You can just watch it. There's not very many things that's aggressive about them in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And that's a recipe to get your ass beat, in my opinion. Next question. James wants to know, how many more losses until you think Sirianni's job is in question? Let me tell you something. I was one of the people that was in the camp that if you're going to fire 2 defense coordinators and 1 offensive coordinator, all which Nick Sirianni hired last year, then in all probability, he needs to go too. But how do you justify a guy who in 3 years, I think it was 34-17, made the playoffs 3 years in a row, and also got to a Super Bowl and lost the Super Bowl? How do you justify that? When you look at his record, how do you justify firing a coach with that resume? And I think in a lot of ways, the Eagles looked at that and asked themselves that same question and made the decision to bring him back. I don't think that his seat is going to be all that hot unless things go really bad. And then the Eagles realize that, hey, we've got to create some continuity for Jalen. Let's make Kellen Moore our head coach. Because I don't think it's fair what they've done with Jalen. Jalen's had a different offensive coordinator 3 years in a row. He's had a different offensive coordinator every single year since his freshman year in college. How is a quarterback supposed to, learn a system, master a system, be the best that he can be? And in no way, don't think in any way I'm defending him. Those are just facts, okay? The great quarterbacks in the National Football League very rarely go through coordinator change and system changes. Even if their coordinator leaves, the guy who is the quarterback coach usually remains, who understands how that system works so that you create continuity for your quarterback. So I think at some point in time, if they decide to pull the plug, that Kellen Moore is going to be the guy that's going to be the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Eagles have to do that. They owe the $250 million quarterback, they owe him that in order for him to be the best that he can be. It's just a fact. Just a fact. Next question. Why does Vic not want to bring pressure on the quarterback? Is it scheme or personnel? Listen, I think over the years it's been, I think a lot of people have said that that's his defensive philosophy, to not, too deep safeties. We don't want to let, the explosive plays, catch us. I thought that was wrong last week because he was very aggressive against the Packers. Come back this week, it was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He was completely different. And every single time that he made a decision to come with a blitz, it kind of blew up in his face. So on I think it was 4th and 3 or 4th and 4, when Kirk Cousins completed it, kept the drive alive, and then they turn around the next play is when they scored the 41-yard touchdown. So let me set up that scenario. So it's 4th down. You know that Kirk Cousins is pressure adverse. You want him to get the ball out of his hands right now, and you want to create pressure right now to speed up his clock and force him into a bad decision. So on 4th down, they drop back in zone. Kirk Cousins, 1st down. Nobody even breathed on him. You come back 1st and 10. Here you come with an all-out blitz. Boom, they hit for a touchdown. See, the mindset was a play too late. You should have came at him on 4th down. Play your cornerbacks 5 yards off the ball. You want to keep everything in front of you. That's the other thing that got Gardner Johnson in trouble. He thought that the blitz would affect Kirk Cousins in a way where he had to get the ball out right now. But they picked up the blitz. Kirk was able to hold on to the ball. Ray McLeod, I believe it was, or Mooney, had the ability to double move him, where normally that ball's got to come out right now. And now you got a big explosive play. This hurt you in a major way. But the time to do that was on 4th down to speed up Kirk Cousins' clock, was to disguise it, send it, and let him know that, okay, you got one decision. And if you make a mistake, it's either interception going the other way. And if we're fortunate enough to force an incompletion, then guess what? We got the ball. We made the stop on 4th down. But he was a play too late with the blitz. And it cost him, because when he decided to come with it the next play on 1st and 10 to try to get them behind the sticks, boom, 41-yard touchdown. All right, next question. John Wick, welcome to the show, man. If that's really you, how much do you think Sirianni is involved in the offensive play call? I think it's pretty evident by his stance and his position last night that he's not very involved at all. I think that the only say that Nick Sirianni has on the offensive or the defensive side, go for field goal, punt, go for it. But I honestly believe that Kellen Moore is not taking this job if he's 100% beholden to Nick Sirianni, nor is Vic Fangio at his age, and after being in the NFL for 25 plus years, he's not going to be beholden to Nick Sirianni either. Those guys probably told Howie, listen, you want us to take these jobs? No problem whatsoever, okay? But I control my offense and I control my defense, and I don't want the head coach telling me what I should run. The only thing he should be telling me is situationally what we're going to do. Punt it, go for it, kick the field goal. That's the only voice that Nick Sirianni has right now, because he was a little chippy in his response last night. He's like, oh, Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator. He makes all the calls if you want to stir that up again. That tells me everything that I need to know. It tells you, answers your question, tells you everything you want and need to know as well. Okay, next question. D-Space wants to know, you saw 22 Hurts last night. He can freeze linebackers with the RPO and make the offense more efficient. Do you agree? I do think that he found his gear last night. He finally looked like the Jalen Hurts running of 2022. So maybe he is now fully healthy. I just don't like to watch my quarterback run the ball 14 times. The law of averages is going to catch up with him. Somebody's going to catch him. Listen, I talked about it on a pregame last night. In my era, I take the 15-yarder. I take the fine. But I'm going to light his ass up and discourage him from running the ball as much as he runs it. Because you got to remember, in my day, we played to hurt you. Now, we weren't trying to mortally hurt you. We weren't trying to take your livelihood away. But we wanted you to feel us. We wanted to see what your backup could do. That's just the nature of the game, the way we played back then. And you can't tell me that some of these killers in today's game don't have that mindset. You run it if you want to. I'm going to put you on IR. And if it costs me a fine, if it costs me a 15-yarder, so be it. So be it. But yeah, he looks a lot better. I just want to see him look better in the passing game. Okay? With A.J. Brown out, I felt like it was an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to spread the wealth to everybody else. It's apparent to me that beyond Devontae Smith, and for some weird reason, Britton Covey, he doesn't trust anybody else. He either doesn't trust them, doesn't believe in them, and for the life of me, I don't understand what's going on with him and Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is a top 2 or 3 tight end in the National Football League, and for some reason or another, they just will not incorporate him in the offense. And you want to know something? I believe this is the last year of his contract. He's out of here. The Eagles are going to lose Dallas Goedert. And if I was Dallas Goedert, I'd get the hell out of town too. Because while I'm watching, George Kittles and Travis Kelce and Isaiah Likely and Andrews, those 2 guys down in Baltimore get fed, and you just got me blocking every play when I can clearly be a weapon, why would I languish in this offense the rest of my career when I can go somewhere else and get some shine like all of these other guys? He's out of here. I don't care what the Eagles offer him. He ain't coming back. It would not be a prudent career move for Dallas Goedert to remain a Philadelphia Eagle when his contract is up, understanding and knowing that with wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, those guys are going to garner the lion's share of the targets. And I thought when Kellen Moore took over as the offensive coordinator that we would see Dallas more involved in the offense, because that's what he did with his tight ends in Dallas. Those guys caught some balls. They were a part of the game plan. Dallas Goedert is like an afterthought. They think that this guy is some scrub. But I know and I believe that Dallas Goedert can be one of the best tight ends in the National Football League if given the chance. And Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, last night missed a grand opportunity. He's going to have another one next week to spread the ball around to everybody. Stop looking at just Devontae Smith, because the good teams and good situations and critical situations, he's the only one out there that you really trust, because AJ is down. They're going to take him away. The New Orleans Saints is going to take him away. So that means you're going to have to trust Jahan Dotson. You're going to have to trust Dallas Goedert. You're going to have to trust some of these other wide receivers. So start going through your progression and give the ball to the guy that's open, and stop just locking in on that interception that Jalen threw last night. He made up his mind that he was going there come hella high water to Devontae, because he had Britton Covey on a crossing route underneath him that he could have threw it to him. He could have caught that ball and ran right out of bounds and stopped the clock. But he forced that ball to to Devontae under duress instead of just giving the ball to the open guy. I don't understand it. Don't understand it. Next question. Jan wants to know, there's horrible safety play with zone coverage. You really think it wouldn't be more devastating with man? Hey, listen, I'm all for man. I come from the man era. As a linebacker, I covered running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. So I'm here for it. But these defensive coordinators are so afraid of giving up the big play. Okay? I always say that man coverage should be the easiest coverage for a defensive back. You want to know why? Because from the time that you're knee-high to a duck and you start playing football, guess what the first coverage is that you run, because it's the only thing that you understand. That's your man. Wherever he go, you go. You stay with him wherever he goes. You've been doing that your entire life. But in a lot of situations, coaches are so adverse to it because they are fearful of getting beat. Let me tell you something. Anything you do in fear, you're doing it wrong. If you think you can't, you won't. If you think you beat, you are. And I don't believe that these players actually believe that, but this is what's being espoused to them from the defensive coordinator's position by not allowing them to play more man coverage. If I put you in that situation to play man coverage, I'm saying to you without the words even coming out of my mouth, hey, I believe that you can cover that guy. I got confidence in you that you can cover that guy. Excuse me. Get out there, lock him down. Let's lock him down across the board. This is what we do. But when you live in zone all the time, you're sending the message to your players that, you know what? We don't trust you to play man-to-man coverage. We're afraid you might give up the big play. We're afraid that you might get beat deep. That's the message that it sends when you're primarily a zone team, especially when you got guys, that are better in man situations than they are zone. Next question. Got about 3 minutes, guys. Why was Kobe featured more than Goddard? Why wasn't Saquon ran in the runs in the red zone? Listen, legitimate questions across the board. I heard Hugh Douglas on WIP hammer this home all day today. How in the hell is it that Britton Kobe can get 6 targets, 6 catches for 23 yards, and Dallas Goedert only get 4 targets? Okay. And his assessment was right. It's not that Dallas might not necessarily be open. If you can scheme to get your punt returner 6 targets, you mean to tell me that you can't scheme to get one of the best tight ends in the National Football League open? The Eagles in the first half were 1 for 2 in the red zone. And I believe they were even worse in the second half in red zone conversion. One of the oldest plays in the book once you get in the red zone, because most teams play depending on the personnel you have in the game, most teams play 2 high safeties and they don't move. Primarily, they just plant their feet, on the goal line and they soft pedal, maybe a yard into the end zone. One of the plays that's older than dirt is the tight end seam or the tight end shake route in the red zone. In all of my years of covering the Eagles, I haven't seen a tight end run a seam route, a shake route in the red zone since Brent Selleck caught one last. That just gives you an idea of how much offenses have changed. But every other team, every other offense actually runs them. Why aren't we using our 6'5" tight end that can jump out the gym and jump over top of these little DBs that linebackers can't? Why are we not doing that? Why is Jalen Hurts not in zone coverage? I seen him do it one time last night, and it caught me by surprise because you don't really see him do that a lot. He went through his progression. Nothing was open. The defense was in zone. And Jalen dumped the ball right across the middle where Saquon was sitting down. Saquon turned around, made one guy miss, 11-yard gain. If you go through your progression and you know that your safety valve is either the back on a swing route or your back checking through and then sitting down versus zone, with a guy like Saquon, I would be dumping those passes to him all day long. There's certain fundamentals about the game of football that never change. And they're right there for this team. Even Jalen talked about it last week after the 2 interceptions and the potential 4 that it could have been. I got to take what the defense is giving me. And yet, you got the obvious is right there in front of you all the time. And you're still trying to push the ball down the field and force the ball in windows and put the ball in harm's way instead of taking right there what the defense is giving you, move the chains, get the first down, and keep the possession going. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Last question of the night, y'all. James wants to know, is aggressive defense like you played dead in the NFL? No, I wouldn't necessarily say so. I think that defensive coordinators who are overly aggressive, like Wink Martindale, who's now coaching, I believe, at Michigan, I think guys can kind of run themselves out of the league because I think the organizations are having more of a say on how it is that they want you to run your defense. Like, I think the Eagles want explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball, but I also think that they believe that you got to defense against explosive plays on the defensive side of the ball. Hence why you have your cornerbacks playing so soft and trying not to give up the big play. But like I said, you can't play defense as a defensive player. At some point in time, you got to play offensively. And I think what wound up happening, the explosive plays that the Packers had last week kind of shifted the mindset of Vic Fangio this week, where he didn't want to give up the big play. And in the process, Cousins in the second half just nickeled and dimed and nicked and cut him all the way through it. He made one big explosive play because Cousins read the pre-snap blitz and CD Deuce didn't get up quick enough, during out of his disguise. But I just think that football is always a game of, situations and a game of risk in a lot of situations. And anytime you get to a point, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you're trying to mitigate risk, you're trying to mitigate big plays, you're trying to mitigate long touchdowns, everything that you hope to be able to stop in a passive way is exactly what's going to happen and what's going to come on you. All right, guys, it's always a pleasure being with you. I wish that it was under happier terms, given the game last night. Like I said, I find it hard to believe that the Eagles really have a chance the way that they're looking right now. But hey, I'll be back here right next week, same place, same time, to break it all down. We'll talk about what happens down at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans and find out whether the Eagles have got any fight in them. Because right now it's not looking good in a myriad of different ways. Without A.J. Brown, defensively, we can't stop the run. What do you think Alvin Kamara and Clint Kubiak, the offense coordinator for the Saints, are going to do after they demolished and destroyed and disintegrated the Dallas Cowboys last week? The Eagles going to have a tough Sunday, man. Tough Sunday. And I find it hard to believe that they can find the wherewithal to actually go down there and be competitive with the Saints. Then they got to turn around. They got to go down to Tampa Bay. And it seems as though Todd Bowles has got some kind of blueprint on Jalen Hurts. Baker Mayfield is playing well. It's not looking good because, in my opinion, it's highly probable and greatly likely that the Eagles can wind up 1-3 after 4 weeks. And that'll be a monumental hole for them to try to climb out of with such a young football team. All right. All right. Well, listen, I'll see you guys next week right here. Same place, same times. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. And as always, take care of each other and be good to each other. But most important, make sure you love each other. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the Home Care Program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This is Seth Joyner, top analyst for the Birds. I've also analyzed the best auto dealerships, and I drive a Davis Honda.
Get to Davis Honda now and fall into savings. Lease a new 2024 Prologue EV for just $299 per month. See why Davis Honda continues to win outstanding awards for sales and service, including the highest award from Honda, the President's Award, 2 years in a row. Fall into savings right now at Davis Honda. Feel the Davis difference at Davis Honda in Burlington.
I'm Seth Joyner, and I drive a Davis Honda.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
The Excite Center at Parks Casino, the region's hottest live entertainment venue. Check out your favorite concerts, comedy, boxing, MMA, all at the #1 casino in Pennsylvania. Don't miss Funny Man JB Smoove on Saturday, September 14th, plus Straight No Chaser on Friday, October 18th. Don't miss these two exciting headliners, only at the Excite Center inside Parks Casino. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Tickets on sale now.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.